Hey everybody, it's Victor here, and as you can tell by the title of the video, it's another opening move guide, and this one is for Khmer. Before I get started, I wanted to point out that I do have a new mic, so hopefully that solves whatever audio issue I was having. If I'm still having one, please let me know. So why Khmer? Simply put, a couple of people were trying out Ludi's guide, and they were just running into a brick wall repeatedly because they kept losing to Ayutthaya. Thing is, this is actually expected. You see, Ayutthaya is stronger than you at the beginning of the game. On top of that, they have these two subjects, which will make them have more manpower and numbers than you, and then they're going to have an ally to make that even worse. But probably more important is that they have a fort here, and you do not. That means that they can retreat back here, regroup, get more men in the field, and come back at you. You, however, if you lose a fight, they're just going to stack wipe you. So it is a very difficult fight. So what this is, it's a guide for people that want to play Khmer, not pull out their hair or have a death war, and just simply use the mechanics that are available to you. So first off, this is in Iron Man, so it will work for you, and I'm going to show you both how to do this without exploits and also just give you the information, so if you don't mind them, you can do that too. So the first thing to do, go ahead, merge your fleets, mothball them. You're not going to need them, and honestly, while I know a lot of people would rather have their 2 trade ships out there, to be quite honest, most people forget about them, and they get them sunk. So instead of sending them out where you're going to have to rebuild them later, just mothball them and put them out there later, so you don't have to spend the money to rebuild what you already had. So I think the best place to start with Khmer, otherwise, is with the disaster. This disaster is currently bugged, so it's not firing, but once they fix it, or if you simply reload your game, it'll fire. What this does is it costs you 2 stability, and it makes all of your power costs go up by 25%, which is pretty bad. Every general you hire is going to cost more, every development click is going to cost more, your stability is going to cost more, your tech is going to cost more, and if you look at how you get rid of this, it makes sense on why it's so bad. So you have to develop this province to 15, every other province you have to 10. On top of that, you have to either tech up or convert all of your provinces to one religion, which I'll get to later. And then finally, you have to have a stability of 2. Now, if you remember, this is going to cost you 2 stability. Your ruler's also very old, so that's going to cost you stability. And on top of that, your religious unity is so bad, it's going to drive up the cost of the stability. Where if you do not fix your stability, the price for it, the religious unity, you are going to have to spend about 900 admin just to get your stability high enough to end this. So given that fact, that it's going to cost that much, I would really recommend that you, instead of focusing on using the admin to tech up and building temples, simply aim to convert your country. Here's the thing, if you actually look at your religious unity, it's pretty bad. The reason it's pretty bad is because about 45% of your country, or 40%, is Theravada, about 45% is Hindu, and then you have some animist here. But here's the kicker. When you complete this, you simply get an event. What this event does is, it lets you choose your religion, Theravada, Hindu, or Mahayana. Before you even get to complete this, you need to decide what you are going to do. The reason why is because the strategy that you do will change whether or not you're Theravada, Hindu, or you're going Mahayana. Just that simple. If you're going Mahayana, it's largely the same as Theravada, but you're going to have a lot more religious conversions. Hindu, it's substantially different, and I will explain them. But before we go down that road, I want to explain one thing. Focus admin. Just focus admin. Do not focus military, don't focus diplomacy. I know a lot of people would rather focus military because they want to develop with military power, or they want to develop with diplomatic power, not admin. In this case, however, I have to stress that you're going to want to dev with admin power. Here's the reason why. You see, with military power, you get more manpower, which is a great thing to have. It doesn't help your economy, but it'll make you be able to punch higher. The problem is that these dev costs are without that 25%. It will be added later. So even if you have the encouraged development on, it's still going to cost you about 60 to 80 points to dev one time. Considering the fact that tech is going to cost a base cost with that disaster fired, of 750 points, you are simply in no position to be deving with military at all. What about diplomatic power? Thing is that diplomatic power when you're deving, especially early, it depends on the trade good. And if you look, you only have 2 trade goods that are really going to be worth deving with diplomacy. These are useful because it'll eventually give you manpower. The problem is that they're not worth any money. So your economy is not going to actually be able to do anything. And this province right here, this 1, which is your capital, it's already over Dev 10, so you should not be putting points here at all until you get the disaster handled. The reason why is right now, this is where you're going to be pushing Renaissance. So once this disaster is handled, you then come back and use this province, because it's the right amount of dev with the right modifiers, to dev push Renaissance to get yourself caught up quickly. That is quite simply what you need to do. And admin, if you look at the difference between them, you will get more tax out of doing this than you will any income you will have developing diplomatic. So given the fact that you need to be able to afford your army, dev admin, I understand that a lot of people are going to be asking why, considering your stability cost is this high. The simple answer is you're not going to be deving admin or buying stability until your religious unity is fixed. So let's talk about religion. If you are going to stay Theravada, you need to first convert Angkor. The reason why is because Angkor has this monument. You will get the 5% discount on tech cost if you either 1, convert this province to Theravada, or 2, convert your country to Hindu. If you flip to Mahayana, you need to convert it first to whatever religion you're going to have, and then after you've done that, convert it to Mahayana. So it's a lot more hoops to jump through, but it is what it is. So if you get this converted, and it will take you about 4 to 5 years to convert this, you will be able to do so, which will give you the tech cost reduction, which, when you add in the behind time with military tech, will let you keep up without falling too far behind. Though you have to remember, your king and his heir are not exactly fantastic for doing this. So, that is what you need to focus on first. But you need to make a decision before you even unpause on what religion you're going to be, and I honestly recommend you go Hindu. To explain why, I need to explain a little bit about the Theravada religion. So, your karma will go down whenever you start a war or take a province. It will go up when you return cores, honor your alliances, all these things right here. But mainly, what it's going to do is you're going to be converting provinces. Now, I've heard people say, go ahead and stay Theravada because then you don't have to convert all this. The problem is you are starting wars and taking provinces, but you're not converting. Which means your karma is going to be trash. You are going to be so far down on karma, you're not going to have the 5 discipline or the 2 diplomatic reputation that you would want to have. Meaning you only have 2.5 discipline. If you flip Hindu, however, if you notice, there's only 1 Hindu country near you, and that's Champa. Which means you can get try to remember what it's called, the expansionist zealotry, which gives you 5 morale as long as you're fighting not people of your religion, which means you can go into these lands with 5 morale as an advantage over these enemies. They'll have 5 discipline, but morale is so much more important early game. So you'll be able to win these fights a lot easier than you would if you stayed Theravada, and you won't have to worry about karma at all. So I would honestly recommend you flip Hindu. Now, there is a few things you need to be aware of if you're flipping Hindu. The first thing is, if you actually do this, you can flip Hindu on day 1. Don't flip it on day 1. I will explain why later, but you can do it. You already have more Hindu land than any other religion, so you are able to flip Hindu instantaneously. You don't need to have the rebels fire. That being said, you can have the rebels fire and have them stomp through your country to convert you. It's a matter of personal preference. At the end of the day, though, it's going to come down to, even if they stomp through your country, which when they do, they will cause autonomy, you are still going to have to go through these other missions in order to get out of this disaster. So rushing the conversion doesn't necessarily help you. It'll only drive up your autonomy and make the AI more likely to attack you, thinking that you're going to be weak because of rebels. So just keep that in mind. But you can absolutely flip Hindu very easily. Your choice on whether the rebels fire. Second, you have the estates. If you look at this right here, if you flip Hindu, they are going to take 10% of your crown land. So if you're going to stay Theravada, go ahead, give religious state. Give it, and then give whatever else you're going to give. If you're flipping Hindu, you need to sell crown land. You are also going to need money, so the other thing you can do is the crown land exploit. And if you don't know what that is, I'm going to leave a card up at the top so you can follow that. It'll explain what it is. So you can get the money and still take advantage of this crown land. However, again, personal preference, and this is a non-exploit explanation. You can still get money from being indebted to the merchant guilds and selling lands here. You just simply do not have these. So, why don't you give the monastic orders here, the religious state, if you're going to go Hindu? Simple answer is, once you flip Hindu, everything in the monastic orders is going to cancel out. It will clear itself out and be replaced by the Brahmins. That means if you give the monopoly here to the monastic orders, it will give you 8 years of the income, take away the next 10 years in potential income, because you can't revoke it, and give you 1 mercantilism, and then clear itself out automatically, giving you that permanently, those 2 benefits, restoring the production to it, and then you can grant the monopoly again if you so desire. Which, given the fact that this is actually both one of the and right next to some of the most profitable trade areas in the game, I would recommend you get your mercantilism up. Now, the reason why that is why you sell it instead of granting it if you're going Hindu, because then, if you look, you will absolutely go down to 0. That means when you click this button, your prestige will go down. That is absolutely true. But they are not going to take your crown land because you don't have any. That is why you don't click these until you flip Hindu. And again, you're still not doing it. You will do it basically December. So that is done. Now let's go ahead and focus on why you want the money. This 700 ducats is massively important. You're not going to spend it right now, and I'll explain why. What you can do with this money is hire a mercenary group. You're going to want to hire one of these. The reason why is, even if you don't necessarily have a great general here, this is a really good one, but you might not have any great ones, is simple. If you look at what you can do, you can hire one general, or you can put your king or his heir in charge. The problem is that if the king or the heir, if either of them pass while sieging, you're going to lose extra stability. Now, given the fact that disasters are going to cost you 2, and this guy's going to go real soon, if he dies in the middle of it, it's not going to matter. You can't go below 3. But if your heir then passes on top of that, unless you're not at 3, you're making it more likely that when he passes, he's going to cost you 2 stability. And you're also reducing his lifespan doing this, which is useful in general because he's not a great point ruler. You don't want him to pass early simply because it'll make you have to pay more stability. So you can hire a general. The problem is what happens if that general doesn't live very long. You have to hire another one, which will be 62 military points, which puts off your ability to tech up with military by a year, which can be an eternity, especially if you're in the middle of a war with Ayutthaya who's ahead of you. But if you hire this guy, for instance, that does 2 things. One, you have a general here, which is good, but then even if he does pass, you get another one for free. You don't simply lose generals and you have to hire another one. It will replace it for you. They cost more, but it's still worth it. Second, the way mercenaries work, and I've had to explain this a couple of times, so this is just an explanation now, so people understand why it's better to hire a named company than a free company. These guys cost less, they're less effective after a fight, but more importantly, the free company is only for you. You get the free company. Ayutthaya has their own free company. Lanzhang up here has their own free company. But you all share this Kutai company, and all of these named ones. This means that if you hire this guy, Ayutthaya cannot have a 5 shock general by buying him with 2 siege that can come after you for this much money. You deny them that. On top of that, if you eliminate all their manpower, given the fact they only make 76 per month, it's going to take decades before they can hire them again. So do not be afraid of hiring named ones, especially as Khmer, when it's in your best interest to save the monarch points for now. The other thing you use with the money is something you're not going to do right away, and that is build forts. The 2 forts you're going to want to build are here in Battambang and here in, I don't remember how this is, Stung Treng? I don't know how you pronounce that. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. The reason why you do it in those 2 places is because if you look at these forts in the area, you will eventually own this one from Champa, which will protect your right flank. This is wasteland, so anything that comes down this way will get stopped by this fort. Now, this fort is in a savanna, which doesn't really give you a benefit, but eventually you'll be able to move it into the jungle to cause some problems for any attacker. The way the fort zone of control works, either of these 2 will be effectively be the same thing in stopping them from moving forward, but this is hills, which has 10% defensiveness, which is just slightly better than the jungle here. But they will cause the exact same thing regardless of where they're located. The last one here in Battambang will help defend this avenue right here with zone of control. And if you look, that will cause a solid front where they cannot pass through, giving you everything back here as development or whatever else you need to do where they cannot simply run through, siege you out, and destroy your army. The reason why I know a lot of people are going to say this, though, that this is not what you do, is because of Angkor. The problem is that if you build a fort in Angkor, which, if you look at this mission here, will eventually become your capital, is because then you have to build yet another one in Persat, which is a grasslands. You would be much better off building it in Battambang, giving a defensive fort that you can fight them in where they take -1 as a dice roll, than in a grasslands where you're not going to have that advantage. So build it in Battambang. You can build another one in Angkor later if you so desire. Now, the reason why I say you don't do it now is because if you develop first, you'll get -20 construction cost and another -20 construction cost, which will make it really, really, really cheap to build these forts. Obviously, you're going to be doing dev first. So go ahead, use the money, stockpile it, and then go through your enemies. And when you're ready and you have these missions done, build the forts. If you're looking at a situation where you have an Ayutthaya that's aggressive and allied with Lanzhang or allied with Dai Viet at the same time, ready to come after you, yeah, you can go ahead and build the forts. Don't wait. It's better to have the forts and win a war than to not build them hoping to save money and end up losing the money. Now that I've gone ahead and covered that, the next thing to really go into is your diplomatic situation, which are the rivals. Do only rival Lanzhang and Champa. The reason why you're allying these 2, you already start rival with Lanzhang, and Champa you're going to attack early for a show strength, which will give you 100 of each monarch power. This will help you get out of that disaster a little bit quicker. It'll give you a long truce timer, which is fine. You'll make it. The reason why you don't rival either Dai Viet or Ayutthaya, even though you can at the beginning, is simply because Ayutthaya and Dai Viet have a couple of things about them. If you look at the very first line of what happens when you rival somebody, you'll understand. It's that more likely to get alliances with their enemies. What that means is if you rival both Lanzhang and Ayutthaya, because they do not start rival to each other about 90% of the time, they may ally to stop you. The thing that's important is they usually want their land. Sometimes it's not vital interest, but it's a strategic utility. But that is usually still enough for them to want to take the land, which means they won't ally them. They'll ally somebody up here instead. Lanzhang, they do the same thing. Usually it's just a strategic utility, but they don't ally unless you rival them. you make it about a 10% chance that they will ally unless you rival both of them. Ayutthaya will usually rival you around December. By then, they've already figured out their allies. The reason you don't do it with Dai Viet is it's the exact same thing with Ayutthaya. If they are not rivaled, they can ally just to stop you. So just wait, see if they're rivaled. If they are, you can go ahead and rival them now. The reason I'm not doing it yet is because I want to show it's also with Lanjan. Here they are rivaled in one way or the other, so you can absolutely go ahead and rival Dai Viet. Now the reason why these three are probably the easiest ones for you to do and you don't have to worry is because usually Dai Viet and Lanjan will rival each other, or they will want each other's land in some regard. And Champa and Dai Viet will never ally because Dai Viet has Champa's core. So they will never ally. What can happen, however, is Champa either allying Lanjan. Usually they don't have an ally. The only other person they can usually get as an ally, and this has happened one time out of about 50 times I've run this, is Sambas down here. However, Sambas will ally you. They're not the first person you ally, though. And now we move on to allies. When you look at allies, this is actually why you are not converting. If you convert to Hindu before you unpause, none of these guys are going to ally you. None of them. You might get one or two. But Pegu, Lana, Mong Mao, they're not going to ally you, and they are who you're looking for. Pegu will always ally you so long as you don't flip to Hindu. Lana will ally you so long as you don't flip to Hindu. And what I mean by that is they will stay your ally after you flip, but they won't ally you if you have flipped. So the first thing you need to do is go through and make sure nobody is rivaled to each other. And then you go in this order. Lana here is the rival of Pegu. Go ahead, ally Pegu first. Go ahead and increase the here. Wait a day. Then ally Lana. Wait a day. And Mong Mao here, check to see if they want Lanjan's land. They usually do, or you can get favors with them fast enough. Ally them. Wait until your diplomats come back. And then to prevent Sambas from allying Champa, go ahead and ally them yourself. And there you go. 4 out of 4. Now, if you remember, in my estates, I'm leaving this one open. The reason why is because eventually you will have a subject here and a subject here. Specifically, you are going to first show strength against Champa, and then you're going to eventually conquer them, release them as a vassal, and feed them these 3 little guys here. In Lanjan, there is this guy who has cores all up over here. Once you feed him back his cores, you will then have this mission done, which gives you a subjugation on all of Lanjan. Also on this guy, but that's not really important. So those are your allies. That'll give you the option to get strong duchies later. You're ready to go. Before we hit the next month, we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and flip to Hindu. The reason why is they didn't take any crown land because I didn't have any. Wait a day, and the Brahmins take over. Go ahead, give them a monopoly again. Take expansion zealotry if you want, whatever you choose to do. Then take the diet. The reason why is because either one of two things is likely to happen. You get this mission, which is go ahead and develop a province, which may be one that is one you need to develop anyway, which is what this is. The other one that you can get is convert this province, which will give you a missionary strength guide half off, which will help you finish off this conversion mission entirely, which is useful, not required, but definitely useful. Now, if you look, you're at a negative 100 prestige. That makes it very likely for this mission, instead of being a subjugate mission over here, being a get yourself to negative 30 prestige, and you get 1 free stability. Which, absolutely, if you get that one, take it, because if it means you have to do a humiliation war and just get enough prestige that way, do it. It makes a lot of sense to get a free stability, especially when it costs you 180 admin points to do it. But it didn't come up this time, so I'm going to go ahead and take this one. I'm not playing through it for long. So now that I am Hindu, go ahead, select your personal deity as the missionary strength guy, or you can go discipline if you're afraid of losing too many men. But the reason why is because, well, it will drop this and it'll actually go down even further. But I gotta wait for it to tick down. Your first expansion path will be against these three guys. Go ahead and get your spy network in. Usually what will happen is the two guys on the outside will ally together and they will both rival the guy in the middle, either rivaled by or rivaling against, one or the other. So they will unite together, and then occasionally this guy in the middle will end up allying Lanjan. If that happens, it is not the end of the world. It's actually okay, because that's easier than fighting who they usually get as allies. So the only bad news is that usually you can't pull in your allies against Lanjan, but once you get the claim up there, you can do it. As far as why these allies, I do want to point out something. Just to help make it make sense. They do want their land, and usually Lan Na here will want their land. The reason you call these guys in is the AI will focus down the weakest enemy that you have. So if you are allied to these three, given the fact that all three of them are weaker than you, the first thing they're going to do is come up here and fight Mong Mao. They're going to fight them because right now they don't have an army. But they do have a fort in a jungle, which means they're going to take attrition. Once they get Mong Mao out of the war, they're going to come down here and they're going to fight Lan Na, because they have an army. After they get through there, sieging through their jungle fort, they're going to go after Pegu. And then once they're done with Pegu, they're finally going to focus on you. By that time, you're probably going to win, because you yourself outnumber them. So you should be fine, especially since you can hire many, many, many mercenaries. But go ahead, wait for December to tick over. And then, as you can see, it all dropped down. All of a sudden, you're good to go. See, I also got lucky with this guy. He's calm. Unfortunately, it's not this guy. The last bit of advice I can give you before I move on. Make sure you check in here for either one of two advisors. One is missionary strength. The other is stability cost. Both of them significantly can help you. But once you're Hindu, or if you're Theravada, just keep going. Go ahead and start converting your provinces. You'll eventually get it done. You'll get it done before any of the others. And start developing as you can. And simply move from one state to the other. And be sure to use your state privileges here, or your edicts, just to make it go a little bit faster. But with that, you'll have easy expansion here. Easy monarch points out of Champa until you start expanding well beyond that. And then once you're ready to go, go ahead and just consume all of Champa. And then release them as a vassal and give them this land. Or, if you already released one of these guys as a vassal, which I would honestly recommend, because your coring cost is going to go up, you can then feed them all of Champa. Either one. It doesn't really matter. But, with that, you should have the right start to have enough money to do what you need to do, or have enough strength to be able to expand, get yourself out of this disaster without falling too far behind, and be able to have a nice, chill yet extremely strong game where you, according to the missions, subjugate everybody around you. And this is why you go through Champa first. Once you have Champa done, you get a subjugation on Dai Viet, which then you can turn into going after Lanzhang here, which will give you a subjugation on them. And then after you've done that, you can turn on Ayutthaya. And once you get one province and loot their capital, yeah, you get a subjugation on them too. So just instead of going straight to the west, wrap around to the east and come back down. If you like this kind of content, please leave a like and subscribe. Otherwise, if you have any other nation you want me to go over or any particular questions, by all means, leave it in a comment. I'm more than happy to answer questions or give advice of any kind. But thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful day.